You are listening to Church Talk with Isaac.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Church Talk with Isaac. I am your host, Isaac Watson, and I want to thank all of my listeners, downloaders, subscribers, everyone who sends me topics and emails. Thank you all so much for supporting this platform. I really do appreciate it. You all make this platform visible to thousands of people all around the world. And I just want to, again, just show my deep appreciation and gratitude to you by extending to you a thank you. Listen, I want to begin a conversation today on the topic of how to leave a church properly. When you are in a season of transition, when you are in a season of transition, how do you leave a ministry, a church, in an honorable way? I think this is a topic that's very important, and I think it's something that needs to be covered. It was actually recommended by one of our listeners to cover this topic, and I believe it's important because so many times, there's so many occasions where there's things that may be going on within an organization or in the personal life of an individual or family where they may feel as if the ministry that they may be a part of, the church that they're a part of, may not necessarily be a good fit for them anymore, may not be a good fit for their family. Maybe there were some abuses that may have happened, some things that may have transpired within the ministry, and they just feel like it's time to find another ministry, find another church, depart from the ministry that they are in. And oftentimes, to be honest, one of the things that I'm learning and that I've seen throughout within the church and throughout the body of Christ is that many people do not know how to leave in an honorable way. And sometimes it's not done maliciously, it's not done in ill intention. Other times it is done because of those reasons, but sometimes it's not. And oftentimes people just have never been told how to transition from one place to another place. So I want to talk about this just for a few moments because I believe that honor is very important. And I also believe that how you leave one place will also, and the way that you handle a particular situation and leaving that place, it will also affect your experience in your next place if you never confront or deal with or come into a reality of what you've actually done, how you've done it, and how it may have affected you, your family, your ministry, your leaders or previous leaders, however the case may be. And let's just take a moment to talk about this. All right. For one, let me open up and say this. Everyone may not be at a ministry for their entire life. So there's sometimes where you may be called to a place. It may be for a lifetime, but then a church, especially for leaders within a church, they also understand that many churches are passing places for many individuals where they may come, they may go. But then there are relationships that are lifetime relationships that are covenantly connected within a ministry, and people may be there for the long haul. Now, if you are leaving or departing a ministry, I believe that the first thing that we have to look at in the approach that should be taken before the departure, you have to look at the nature of that relationship because quite honestly, it all depends on the relationship. Now, I understand that every situation is not the same, right? I understand that there are some very impossible scenarios that transpire within a ministry where you can attempt to leave in an honorable way, but it just does not seem to, or let me say this, opportunities just may not come to where you're able to do that. So you just kind of have to do your best in your transitional period. So you do have to look at the relationship. Now, what I mean by that is, what is your role within the ministry? What's your role within the church? What do you do? Are you serving? Are you in leadership? Are you responsible for people? Do you have someone? If you serve on a team as a volunteer, do you have a director or someone that you are accountable for or accountable to, rather? If many of those things are in place, then I do believe that it is important that at bare minimum, you have a conversation. All right. Let me just say this. It's easier to leave a ministry when you have not made any real commitments to that ministry. So if you're there and if you are a partner or a member of a local assembly and you don't have any responsibilities, you don't serve on any ministerial teams, you come, you get your word, you say hi to the person sitting next to you, and then you go home. Never really built any real relationships, or you just have not made any real commitments. I don't believe that it's necessarily important or necessary for you to write a letter to your church. Now, some churches, depending on the background, one of the things that they may have within their structure is for you to write a letter if you're departing from a ministry. That way they can have a record that things were done the right way. They can have a record on what actually happened. And also, oftentimes those letters can also be letters of recommendation when an individual transitions from one church or ministry to another. And if that church that's receiving that individual or that family, if they want to reach out to the previous church, they actually have a point of reference through the letter, and they can actually have a record of what happened and who's actually coming to their ministry. So I understand why some churches do letters, but personally, and I'm just going to speak personally, I personally do not believe that if you do not serve, that a letter is necessary to be written. Now, I also believe outside of relationship, it also depends on the size of the ministry, the size of the church that you may be departing. The reason being is because when a church is smaller in size, it may be easier to actually build relationship within that ministry and relationship with the leadership or pastors, senior leadership of that ministry. As ministries grow larger, or if you are a part of a larger church, a larger ministry, and say they have hundreds or even thousands of members or partners within their church, it may not be as easy to just call your pastor or your spiritual leader. It may not be as easy to just get a meeting with them. And there may be certain structures in place to where maybe they have delegated authority to elders, to a pastoral staff or team, or directors or spiritual upline or servants within the house that you may report to if you serve on a team, or whatever the structure may be. So it may not be necessary to get to the pastor. It just may be necessary for you to speak to whoever your upline may be, or whoever you have been assigned to communicate with. But one thing I will say is that I do believe that it can be dishonorable when you serve in the ministry and you simply disappear without saying anything to anybody. The church looks up, the leadership looks up, the pastor looks up, and you're just gone. They can't get a hold of you. They call, they text, and nothing is being responded to. And then the next thing they know, someone runs into you in a grocery store or somewhere, and you're like, oh, I left that ministry. I'm now a part of such and such's church, or whatever the scenario may be, which led to you revealing that you're no longer a part of that church. I believe that can be extremely dishonorable, because when you join a church, you are not only becoming committed to that church, but that church and the leadership are becoming committed to you. So when you leave without saying anything about it, and you're given a certain level, or you're serving in a certain capacity, or given a certain level of influence within that ministry, and you disappear, you kind of leave the leadership within that church blindsided with false responsibilities and false burdens. Because in their heart, in their prayers, they are still approaching you as if they are responsible for your shepherding. When the fact of the matter is that you have made a decision to move on. So it can be dishonorable in that regard. I believe that whenever you are, and this is the thing, there's nothing wrong with transitions. Everyone transitions in life. Your life is full of seasons, right? And seasons have a tendency to change. And I'm not saying that every church is only for a season and all of that, but there are times and there are people who may feel as if God may have changed their season, or their seasons just simply change, and it's time for them to move on, or to relocate, or whatever the situation may be. So it strongly depends on your level of influence, or even you serving within a ministry, which should determine how you approach leaving or departing from a church in an honorable way. never leave without saying anything. Again, that's one of the most dishonorable things that you can do. The lack of communication it can be extremely dishonorable. At bare minimum, there should be a conversation with whoever is directly accountable for you in whatever ministry that you may be serving in. I'm not saying that you always have to go to the senior leadership, but something should be said to whoever may be directly responsible for you in your serving within that ministry, because I guarantee you that it most likely will inevitably get back to the senior leadership. And from that point, they can determine how they want to address the situation. I think another factor that's into play is whether or not you actually have a relationship with the senior leadership, meaning that the senior leadership has taken time with you personally. You know them. You have built a personal relationship with the senior leadership. And one of the most devastating things that can happen is when someone has spent time with you and you spend time with them, and then you make a decision to disappear without saying anything, or leave or transition or depart without saying anything to that individual. I think that can be dishonorable. I've seen it done where leaders may have spent time with individuals within their church, and we've even experienced it within our ministry, within our church, where you spend time with someone and they leave without saying anything, and they may hear this. They may leave a letter without having a conversation with you. And now to the individual, that may seem like they're doing it in an honorable way that can be recorded. But to the actual church or the leaders, if that relationship has been built where there's been conversations around other things, then surely there should be conversation around someone leaving or departing from a ministry. But that is something, quite honestly, that is very common, which is quite honestly why I am actually doing this episode today, because I just believe some people may not know, or there may be a fear of having that conversation, or whatever the case may be. But one of the things that I want to admonish you, whoever you are, is that one thing that you want to make sure that you try your best not to do is burn the bridges of the relationships that you've developed. And oftentimes there can be unforgiveness, bitterness, and all types of things that can be developed simply because of the way something was done, not necessarily because of the heart behind what was done. So if there's a relationship that is there with the senior leadership, I believe that there should be some level of conversation that is had, that there should be a meeting that may be called. And we've also had people that may have left a particular ministry, that there was relationship there, and they actually left a letter along with having a conversation. Now, with situations like that, I don't necessarily believe that there's anything wrong. I just believe that it is important to at least have a conversation and be able to express what is going on. And the reason why is this: many times people may leave a ministry out of offense or out of something, quite honestly, that may simply be a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of something. And a conversation can help to eliminate that offense, help remove that offense, help to bring clarity to wherever there was miscommunication or a misunderstanding of a situation, scenario, something that was said, something that was done. Conversation, I believe, wins every battle. So I believe that these topics, we have to be able to understand that it's important how you leave a place. Now, I want to say this. If you are someone who has departed from a ministry, I also believe that what you do and how you handle your departure, even after you have departed, it also, I'm going to cover this from two different angles. It also means a lot. I believe on the individual standpoint of this, I believe that it is important that the individual who leaves the ministry, or the family that leaves the ministry, that you do not try to defame or dishonor the church or the individual or the pastors or leaders that you're leaving. Don't gossip or paint them out negatively to others. Now, one of the things that I've learned, and I think that this is wisdom to many of you that may be listening, is your experience is not the standard of expectation for everyone. All right. Now, what I mean by that is this: the immature person who, if they left out of offense or whatever the case may be, the immature person, they leave, and they make the expectation for everyone else's experience with this church or with these leaders. They make the expectation whatever them as an individual experienced. When maturity actually says that although this individual or these leaders may have been bad leaders to me, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad leaders to everyone. Even though they may have, or I may have not had the best experience in this particular place or this particular church, this church may actually be the best church for other people. And these leaders may actually be the best leaders that others may have had in their entire life. So I cannot make my experience everyone else's experience. So whenever you are talking about leaving or departing a ministry, you always want to make sure that you have an honorable tone, that even if things may not have gone well, that you don't find yourself gossiping or painting them out in a negative sense to others. Now, every person or family that leaves a ministry, they don't always leave out of offense. Most times it may not necessarily be out of offense or anything went wrong. Sometimes people just simply transition, whether it's a geographic change where you may be leaving the city or the state or whatever the case may be, or maybe you just need a better fit for your family, whatever the case may be. The greatest thing that you can do is communicate. Make sure that you always speak well of them. If you had a relationship with them, make sure that you actually talk to them. Don't just leave and not say anything. Or if you may not have had a relationship with them, but you had a relationship with others within the ministry, or even served on a particular team or ministries within the church, communicate with them about what's going on. That way they can take the proper actions and also just have the right perspective as far as the expectations are concerned with you or concerning you. All right. So listen, I hope that these, and I wasn't exhaustive in covering this, but I did want to just give a few things that I believe could be a help or benefit to you. So thank you again for listening in. I hope that this blessed you. And until next time, you have a great week. Be blessed.
Thank you for listening to Church Talk with Isaac. If you enjoy our content and benefit from this podcast, do me a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, family, and colleagues. I'm also on all social media platforms and would love to connect with you. You can also partner with us by visiting isaacwatsonministries.com and clicking donate. Your partnership helps us to get the message of Jesus through Isaac Watson Ministries to the world. Talk to you soon.